Rabea.
Hello.
Welcome back, everybody, to Andertons TV. Rabea and I have made it to the end of another day.
We have.
And thought just before we all went home, we'd sneak in a little quick tour of Rabea's gigging rig for FrogLeap. So, for people that don't know, tell us about the FrogLeap. I can't even speak. FrogLeap gig.
It's a covers band, specifically metal covers of pop songs. If you haven't heard of FrogLeap Studios, it is a YouTube channel with my very good friend Leo Maracchioli, who is
easy for you to say,
the main guy. And he's been doing it now, what, 5 years, 6 years?
Oh, it's mad.
It's a cover every Friday that he's consistently done since then, and it will be of everything you can imagine. Toto, Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga, Madonna, Britney Spears, whatever.
It's gone so pro in the last 3 or 4 years, hasn't
Yeah.
it? In the sense of like the songs are like a whole another level.
So he put together a live band, asked me if I wanted to play lead guitar. I was of course going to say yeah, because it's just a load of fun. And I needed a rig that, originally I was using the Line 6 Helix with the Shuriken rig, because our songs, Leo's songs even, change tunings depending on the section, right? So you'll be in one tuning for the verse and then it will need to be dropped 5 semitones for the chorus, for example. And the only technology we could find at the time that was good enough was the Helix Shuriken rig.
And that pitch shifting, though, on Shuriken was happening in the guitar, wasn't
Yes.
it? Rather than...
Using a Cat5 cable.
Yes.
So the whole thing is like...
rock and roll.
Yeah, I know. So it's got an Ethernet cable plugged into your guitar. It uses piezo of some description, and you can individually tune the strings, which is insane.
Did that work with wireless, or was that always a problem too?
That was
always a problem. So you couldn't use wireless. So the current rig, you moved over to the Neural QC.
I did, yeah.
What were the main drivers for doing that?
Well, firstly, a lot of my good friends are part of Neural DSP, so I felt like I was doing them dirty when they brought out this awesome new product, and I'm like, that's great, and then I'm using something else. Well, that was part of it, but to be perfectly honest, the fact that I was capturing, so I was like, well, I'm going to use my amps then, but captured, and on top of that, the pitch shifter in it is so good that it does the same job. I only really had to work out a few different things fretting wise, and I was able to play the whole set with any guitar I want. That was the big seller. I could use my Sig, I could use a Strat, I could use a Les Paul, I could use whatever I want.
I remember you saying that
I really
that
didn't like
was,
them Shurikens.
Yeah, that was the big... It wasn't the Helix itself, wasn't really the issue, was it? It was the fact that you had to use the Shuriken.
There was just some latency there.
Yeah.
When you start tuning down, there was latency, and while there would be a tiny, tiny bit of latency with this, it's negligible.
Yeah.
So
let's have a little look. You've got a Schmidt array Schmidt array board, which all the cool cats seem to have. Obviously, the Neural takes up the biggest footprint, but you've got some other things in here as well.
I do.
Talk us through those.
So really, expression pedal, it's the SP25 from Mission Engineering. It's a great, reliable thing. That's actually Eric, the bass player. He lent me that to try out wireless to see how I get on with it.
Line 6 relay wireless.
Yeah, the G30. I don't know anything about wireless. Apparently, it's good. I don't know. It sounds good, but We're
not using the wireless right now, are we?
hardwired into this wonderful looking.
Yes,
specimen.
I just got something loud and dirty.
It's massively loud and dirty. The Bender, because it's my favourite fuzz.
Why of all the drive sort of pedals and capture options within the QC, do you still have just a sole tone bender sort of clone pedal?
One thing QC doesn't have in abundance is fuzz.
Right.
It's got a couple of fuzzes, but apparently in the world of modelling, fuzz is one of the hardest things to recreate. I think because the technology is old and it's very chaotic sound.
Yeah.
To recreate it in digital world is really hard, which we did with that for my plugin actually. And they did a great job. So I think within a few months, maybe the next year, you'll have a bunch of fuzzes in there, and I won't need it on here. But for now,
I wonder if it's just because again, I'm not an electronics engineer, but people talk about how important it is with fuzzes as to whether you've got buffers or not buffers, and impedance and cables and different pickups, and it's like, I wonder if digital just can't go, I can't do all that stuff. I just need to make a type of sound. And
my thing is like, if they've figured out how to do all this other stuff with digital, it's just a matter of time. I just don't know if a lot of the people using modelers want to use Fuzz.
So Fuzz, you've just got through one of the effects loops on the QC, and you just kick it in depending on...
So the way I've got it hooked up is I'm plugging into the side here. I've labelled everything with Sharpie.
Yeah.
And you go in there, hits anything in the front and then to the input of the QC.
Right.
But then I've routed to the patch bay on the side, alternatives, effects loops. So if I wanted to, like that's in the effects loop.
Yeah.
Of the QC. So it's more just flexibility of patching.
And the Microcosm, again, I'm sort of aware of the company, but I've never tried one. So this is what...
Probably one of the most overhyped pedals I've ever heard.
Overhyped?
Yeah. No, I mean that with all respect in the world. Like, I bought it because it was how hyped it was. I remember seeing some videos, the branding, everything was beautiful, and it makes some really cool sounds. And I bought it purely based off a couple of sound clips and the way it looked.
What is it? Modulation?
It's
just...
How do I describe it? I think it's a take on a delay.
Okay.
But it does all sorts of crazy, weird manipulation to the signal with delay, pitch shifting, reverb, like all sorts.
And is that, again...
I use that for like in-between ambient stuff.
Is it almost one of those... You don't even really know what you've dialed in, but it's so kind of crazy. It's just that... So I understand that because I can see within... Yeah, that there's a really niche of pedals that are quite hard to demonstrate, you know, and because they're not really designed to do the same thing twice. They're almost, the whole point of it is just to sort of be that slightly.
You can learn what it does in different sort of sounds. You can dial in and go, oh, I can hear the repetition there. Okay, I can I was really expecting to be able to write songs off certain patches, and although you probably could, it's way less time specific. Like I can demonstrate what it sounds like. I use it really for ambience in between if I'm doing my other stuff. So I have a specific preset called Board Mess preset, which just allows me to play. I'm using a capture of an M0100 amplifier and 3 different cabs. So let's have a listen.
So it's that underlying sort of octave down shimmer type thing. So the delays and the reverbs are still part of the QC patch. So
that's because I dialed them in there.
Yeah, so put the microcosm back on. It's quite subtle, isn't it?
Yeah, but I can do stuff like, okay, I'm gonna show you. This isn't gonna be a demo on the microcosm.
No. I'm intrigued really because
quickly.
It doesn't. I mean, is it?
That's what it's doing. And you can add reverb, look, see? So.
I do like it. I do like it, and it looks great. But couldn't you do half that stuff with a Strymon Mobius or something, or a timeline?
Yeah, you can.
Is it almost just like?
It does all sorts of mental stuff though, like.
But is that how you use this? So go, right. I wonder what this. Like, you just stumble across interesting stuff rather than know what you're trying to dial in.
Yes.
Right.
That's what happened for me. I don't know if that happened for everyone else. Like, I think Aaron Marshall from Intervals uses his a lot now in his live set. Maybe he's found very reliable sounds with it.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, oh, that works. That sounds good. Anyway, so rather than going through loads of presets, I'll show you that. So that's my kind of in between.
I love how fast you are at getting around all the menus and everything now.
Yeah. Lovely.
Big stereo, I presume.
Yeah.
I think we're running this in stereo, by the way. So put some headphones on, and you might have a. So I'm kind of intrigued. I think we all know that Neural have done an amazing job with the capture technology, and there's a whole army of guitar players now using this to just replace the basic sort of guitar amp type tones. But I'm quite intrigued to talk about the pitch shifting here.
Yeah.
Now, if you've ever pitch shifted your guitar quiet enough that you can still hear the acoustic sound of your guitar and then the pitch of sound, it makes me feel a bit sick when I hear it.
Stressful.
It's like a Brian May solo all the time.
Yeah.
But you're saying your standard guitar for a FrogLeap gig is tuned to drop C.
Yes.
So actually anything you want to do in standard tuning,
tune up.
You've got to tune up, which is quite a bizarre, counterintuitive way of thinking this. So let's just demonstrate some.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's worth saying I needed to find, with this gig, a tuning now with my guitars rather than the Shuriken that worked best to go up and down.
Right.
Because Leo plays a lot of his songs in drop A, which is baritone.
Yeah.
But I need to still play lead, so it needed to be somewhere between the two. So let me give you an example of... We'll start here. So this is the sound of the guitar straight in. Like if I just play unplugged, so because obviously it's going to tune it down.
I'm quite intrigued. Is that, you know, when you did that bottom E string single note, and there's that characteristic of a very low tuned string that goes ba 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 ba. You're still seemingly sort of getting that, even though you're. And have you drop D tuned that? Yeah. So we've drop tuned it a tiny bit, but it's now coming out as drop C or lower.
Well, I can tell you what the pitch shift is doing. So it's down 2 semitones currently. Yeah. So we're in drop D, so that's down in drop C, which normally I'd be down lower than
anyway.
That. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're playing in C right now,
I mean, only you can say as the player, but I could imagine if there was any sense of latency there, it would just be really annoying to play. But is it?
I mean, I would be lying if I said there wasn't any.
Yeah.
But compared to the Shuriken Variat Helix thing, I mean, that was like enough that lead was really a battle.
Right.
And being the lead guitarist, it was like, I used to beat myself up after the show, like, I'm terrible, why am I even doing this gig? Because you just throw you off, all your synchronicity. Yeah. Whereas this is... I mean, it's fine.
I love some of these patch names that you've got on here as well.
Well, because I'm running multiple songs, so
what's Heavy Wham? Was that like a sort of was that like Careless Whisper but done to some sort of I don't know, what was it?
So look, this is preset view.
Yeah.
This is gig view, and I'm running 2 songs at all times. So 2 songs per presets.
There's 2 Wham covers.
So this is song sections.
Right.
So this is party rock along the bottom here. So if I'm playing. And then we go to the chorus.
And you can't imagine that at because you're playing big gigs right here, aren't we? I remember the first time you went out with Leo, and I think you sent me a picture, and I'm thinking oh, he's going to be playing to like 300 people, and it's like 40,000 people or something, and it's like
he's found such an incredible niche, which is for festivals, for gigs. It's like the party vibes are so infectious that the festival bookers are like, after the headliner, you guys are playing, everyone's going to be drunk loving it, and that's what's happening.
You know why though? Every festival that I go to that's a summer festival, the bands do a 45-minute, 50-minute set where 2 songs, and the rest of them you don't know it. Can you imagine? It'd be so cool just to get. In fact, I know this is completely, but at the little local festival I take the family to every year, they get Scouting for Girls come out every year. Yeah. They've got their 2 or 3 hits that everyone else knows, and then fair play to them, they just play covers for the rest of the set because it's like the whole crowd are just going, another song that I know, as opposed to some obscure third album B-side.
It's more the big burly metalheads singing Lady Gaga.
I can imagine
that's the best bit, but they're doing it in that metal wave just because the screaming in it is acceptable.
I want to hear a good example of where the bender is used, over the top of, say, a captured guitar sound, or just some sense of like how authentically fuzz does it sound used in this type of rig?
Well, that would be easier to do not on one of my FrogLeap presets then.
Okay.
There we go. Right, I found a preset. So if I go... I think that's what have I got here?
That sound good.
That's the SLO and the Kraken.
Right. There's a stereo pan mix thing.
Yeah, so I made a stereo
That was one of the first captures you ever did, I think, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Perhaps I probably didn't really understand when we were talking right at the beginning. The signal chain is essentially the guitar going into the bender first and then into here. So you're not trying to use an effects loop within the
not for anything front amp based.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But it's great because it really depends on what capture you put it in front of. Like it would sound completely different if I let me just for the sake of ease do that. So I'm going to go. I don't know what this one is.
I'm not even sure if you.
I don't know what this is going to sound like. It's overloading it in that way that it would.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's cool.
There's a big part of me going. This and this are like 99% of everything's happening in here. You could live without these bits if they're just some nice to have.
Because I mean, it is fair to say that the main reason they're on there is because we're still relatively early days with QC. Mm-hmm. Give it another year and a half maybe, and the effects and fuzzes will have added to it.
Yeah,
we'll be able to do all that. It's just right now it doesn't, so that's why I'm putting it there.
What's underneath the...
yeah, lift it up.
Underneath this is... So nothing. So just the transmitter and a power supply.
Yeah, I could have put more in there. It is worth saying the Chiox DC7 is the best power supply for the job. But what they don't tell you is you need to buy 3 adapters. Look. So you got 1, 2, 3.
Because to double up the voltage or something.
But apparently Chiox have exactly for that reason. They've just made an adapter specially for QC.
It's funny, is that's probably the only thing that I've heard as a sort of a criticism of QC that I think is fair is the power supply that comes with it is not terribly robust, is it? So I suppose if you're using but that's cool, man.
But yeah, so that's basically the board. It's also worth saying you got MIDI in and out on the side, XLR in and out on the back for front of house.
You mentioned because you mentioned the MIDI thing before, and you whizzed off into this whole timecode thing, which I don't really understand. Yeah. So what?
So timecode is essentially where imagine you've got a song, and then you've got a MIDI clip as long as the song to the millisecond, and within that MIDI clip you can send CC commands to stuff that will then affect
what else?
Different bits of gear. So lighting is on timecode normally.
Wow.
Cues for anything. It depends. You can put everything on timecode. So presumably, so you've got some sense of either a click or a backing track that's got to start. Yeah, that's separate. So that timecode sounds horrible. It just sounds like.
But what triggers the start of the
As soon as, for example, in FrogLeap we use timecode for the lighting. So when Trolls, the drummer, hits start on the track,
right,
it sets everything. There's an output from his thing for timecode.
Right.
So I'll be hooking this up to Sal. I wanted to do it for tour, but I just don't know if I got the time to set it all up. But I want this to run on timecode because I had it for the Stormzy gig on timecode, and it's amazing. Because it just changes for all I'll have on stage is an expression pedal, just sat there in the middle of the stage, so I can just be like, when I need to.
I mean, so 50,000 people in the audience, you're just coming up for the big solo that you know is a patch change on there.
What if it just didn't change?
What, is there not just this huge leap of faith to just go, please change?
That's exactly why I was terrified during that gig. Because the whole beginning of that song was all heavy.
Yeah.
The next time I play was clean, and I'm in my head going, "If it's not clean,
you've got nothing on the floor to tell you that it's changed or anything. It's just a pure wow."
So that scared me. But generally, timecode's a very robust system. That's why people use it.
I mean, how bonkers is it that nowadays your touring rig? I suppose many guitar players' touring rig is a gig bag with couple of guitars in it, is it? And that.
It is worth saying that it's just my personal preference that if I'm playing with my other band, Originals band, I'll be running my Krakens with my big pedalboard gig rig thing. It just, for this gig, it's perfect. And if we were doing a bunch of flying gigs, it might be easier to use something like this than cart over kilograms and kilograms. I think this board weighs about 18 kilos.
So do you have go-to monitoring for this, or is it just whatever the front of house is, that's all you hear?
No, we have an in-ears system.
So it's all in-ears as well?
Yeah.
Amazing.
No sound comes off stage other than drums.
That's mad.
Kind of bad though.
Is it acoustic drums or electric drums?
Acoustic.
So there's just basically a loud drum kit on stage and nothing else.
But I had this one thing once my ears went, my pack started cutting out on my ears. For some reason I had some RF frequency problem. And I'm like, it's fine, no, it's going back in again. Because it was like, I took my ear out to hear and I couldn't hear anything. I'm like, oh yeah, there's no cabs on stage.
I don't know. I mean, Sorry, it's my mum phoning you. She loves you. I mean, there's so many things, isn't there? I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, there's nothing to stop an old valve amplifier tube blowing in it, and
True.
But just that sense of like, yeah, you're so reliant, aren't you, on just like in-ears,
That's
wireless.
kind of it, right? The one thing I can't quite escape from is running something like this. Great, really robust, awesome.
Yeah.
Someone spills a beer, gone. At least if someone spilled a beer on my pedal board, the pedals malfunction through the amplifier, so you'd still get sound. Whereas if beer fell on that, I'm done for the whole thing. But just don't spill beer on it.
But you could say the same, couldn't you, if you had the beer on top of the amp?
You could say the same.
I do. I am yet to really. That I see you doing this, and the sounds are amazing, and I can see once you're confident to get through the menus and everything, it's like that my initial fear of kind of like just goes away. But you mentioned again, just I think you've got a healthy balance of using the right tools for the right job in the right environment, and there is no sense necessarily that this is replacing amps or these are better or whatever.
I just love whatever works best.
But so what is it about the when you go back to your originals band, what is it about the sensation of having?
I think it's partly to do with the fact that we're playing music that, in my opinion, sounds better with amps and pedals. Now, someone will probably find a perfectly good argument for that, but it's like, if I was playing in a gent tech metal band or a soloist thing, like what Intervals, Pliny, all those guys are doing, modelers are perfect, because a lot of the tones aren't necessarily tones out of the box from an amp, right? They're so heavily produced into this thing that works for them. It's what modelers are for. I can add an EQ on top of an EQ, on top of a cab, on top of an EQ, and get it to sound however I want. Whereas you're limited by what the amp provides and what the pedal board provides. And particularly in the other band, it's riffs and fuzz and octave and hooks. And
so you want that sense of chaos rather than... Look, they're both great. It's all great. So look, thank you very much. Been lovely to see you. Amazing to spend a whole day with you again.
Absolutely.
Mad to think that we used to do this all the time, and now it's like I barely see you once every 6 months. But there we go.
It's kind of sad.
Sound like a jilted girlfriend. Play us out with a big sound, and again, go and if you've not seen the FrogLeap thing,
we're on tour in September.
Oh, brilliant! Across Europe.
Across Europe.
Yeah. So. Well, look, go see him if you get a chance to. But yes, been a joy to spend the day with you, Mr. Rabea.
Thank you.
Please play us out.
Should we see what happens if I put fuzz on this sound?
You do whatever you like. Yeah.
So.
Maverick. I thought you were literally about to play the Maverick. Do 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 do. Sounds good.
It does. So if I take that off as a.